The blizzard came out of nowhere, transforming the Montana highway into a white wall of fury within minutes. Sarah Mitchell gripped the steering wheel of her small sedan, her knuckles white as the car fishtailed on the ice-covered road. She'd been warned about spring storms in Big Sky Country, but nothing could have prepared her for this. The GPS had lost signal 20 miles back, and now she couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. Her phone showed no service. The gas gauge hovered just above empty. She was lost, alone, and terrified, driving through a wilderness that seemed determined to swallow her whole. Sarah had left Boston 3 days ago, her entire life packed into the back seat and trunk, heading to Clearwater, a tiny town that had hired her as their new elementary school teacher. It was supposed to be an adventure, a fresh start after the disaster that had been her engagement to David. She'd caught him with her best friend 2 months before their wedding, and instead of falling apart, she'd applied for teaching jobs in the most remote places she could find. Clearwater, population 812, had been the first to offer her a position. Now, as her car slid dangerously close to what she assumed was the edge of the road, she wondered if this fresh start would be her last decision. The sedan hit a patch of black ice and spun completely around. Sarah screamed, pumping the brakes uselessly as the car careened sideways and then, with a sickening crunch, slid into a snowbank and stopped. The engine sputtered and died. She sat there, breathing hard, her heart hammering against her ribs. When she tried to restart the car, it made a grinding noise and then nothing. She was stuck. Sarah fumbled for her phone, hoping for even one bar of service, but the screen showed only the emergency call option. She tried it anyway, but the call wouldn't connect. The wind howled around the car, rocking it slightly, and snow was already beginning to pile against the windows. She had a winter coat, but it was a Boston winter coat, stylish and wholly inadequate for this kind of cold. She had half a bottle of water, some granola bars, and no idea where she was or how far from civilization. Panic clawed at her throat. She'd read stories about people freezing to death in their cars during storms like this. Should she stay with a vehicle or try to walk? But walk where? She couldn't see anything through the whiteout. Sarah pulled her coat tighter and tried to think clearly. Stay with the car. That's what they always said. Someone would find her eventually. She just had to stay warm and wait. An hour passed, then the cold seeped through the car's frame despite her running the heater in short bursts to conserve the remaining battery power. Her fingers and toes were numb, and she was shivering uncontrollably. She ate one of the granola bars, forcing herself to chew slowly, rationing her meager supplies. The wind screamed outside, and snow had completely covered the windows now, entombing her in darkness broken only by the weak glow of her phone's flashlight. She was starting to feel sleepy, which some distant part of her brain recognized as dangerous. You weren't supposed to fall asleep in the cold. But her eyelids were so heavy and the shivers were exhausting, maybe just for a minute, just to rest her eyes. The pounding on the window jolted her awake. Sarah's heart leaped into her throat as she scrambled back against the passenger seat, disoriented and terrified. The pounding came again, urgent and forceful, and then a voice, deep and commanding, cut through the storm. "Anyone in there? If you can hear me, I'm here to help." Sarah lunged forward, scraping at the frost on the driver's side window with her numb fingers. Through the small, clear patch, she saw a figure, enormous and dark against the white storm, wearing what looked like a heavy rancher-esque coat and a wide-brimmed hat, somehow still on his head despite the wind. She tried to open the door, but the snow had packed too tightly against it. "Door's stuck," she shouted, not sure if he could hear her step back. She pressed herself against the passenger side as the man outside wrenched at the door with what seemed like superhuman strength. On the third try, it flew open, and a blast of snow and frigid air rushed in. The man leaned down, and Sarah got her first clear look at him. He was massive, at least 6'5", with broad shoulders that filled the doorway. His face was partially obscured by a scarf, but she could see intense blue eyes studying her with concern. "Can you walk?" he asked, his voice a rumbling bass that somehow carried authority and kindness at the same time. "I think so. I'm just very cold. We need to move fast. My truck's about 50 yards that way. Storm's getting worse. Can you make it?" Sarah nodded, though truthfully she wasn't sure. Her legs felt like rubber when she tried to step out of the car. The moment she put weight on them, they buckled, and she would have fallen face first into the snow if the man hadn't caught her. His arms were like steel bands as he steadied her. "Okay, new plan," he said. Without waiting for her response, he bent and scooped her up as if she weighed nothing, cradling her against his chest. "Hold on tight. Don't let go no matter what." Sarah wrapped her arms around his neck, too cold and frightened to protest. He turned into the storm, and she buried her face against his shoulder as the wind tried to tear them apart. She could feel the power in his stride, the certainty of his steps even through the deep snow and zero visibility. He wasn't just big, he was strong in a way she'd never experienced, moving through the blizzard like it was merely an inconvenience rather than a deadly force of nature. What felt like an eternity but was probably only a minute or two later, she heard a truck door open, and then she was being deposited into warmth. The cab of the truck was running, heat blasting from the vents, and the contrast made her gasp. The man climbed in beside her, pulling off his hat and scarf, and Sarah got her first real look at her rescuer. He was younger than she'd initially thought, probably early 30s, with a strong jaw covered in several days' worth of stubble, and those striking blue eyes that now studied her with careful assessment. His dark hair was damp from the snow, and there was a rugged handsomeness to him that would have made her self-conscious under normal circumstances. "I'm Jake Thornton," he said, reaching behind the seat to pull out a heavy wool blanket. "Here, wrap up in this. You're hypothermic, Sarah Mitchell," she managed through chattering teeth as she pulled the blanket around herself. "Thank you. I thought I was going to die out there." "You might have," he said bluntly, putting the truck into gear. It was a massive vehicle, some kind of heavy-duty ranch truck with oversized tires that seemed to have no trouble navigating the storm. "What were you thinking, driving in this?" It came out of nowhere. The forecast said possible light snow. Jake snorted. "City forecast. I'm guessing this is Montana. The weather does what it wants, when it wants." "Where were you headed?" "Clearwater. I'm the new teacher at the elementary school. I was supposed to arrive tomorrow." He glanced at her, something shifting in his expression. "The new teacher. We heard someone from back east was taking the position. Didn't expect her to show up trying to become an ice sculpture." Despite everything, Sarah felt a flash of irritation. "I'm from Boston, not Mars. We have winter there too. Not like this." "You don't." He gestured at the world beyond the windshield, barely visible through the snow. "This is a real storm. The kind that kills unprepared people. Which, no offense, you clearly are." Sarah wanted to argue, but she was too cold and too grateful to be alive. Instead, she asked, "Where are you taking me?" "My ranch. It's about 10 miles from where I found you. We're not making it to Clearwater tonight. This storm is going to last at least 24 hours, maybe more. Roads will be impassable for days after that. Your ranch. I can't just impose on you like that." Jake's laugh was short and dry. "You're not imposing. You don't have a choice. There's nowhere else within 30 miles, and even if there was, we couldn't reach it. My place has a generator, supplies, and shelter. You'll stay there until the storm passes and the roads are clear." The finality in his tone made it clear this wasn't up for debate. Sarah pulled the blanket tighter and watched him drive, his large hands steady on the wheel, his eyes scanning the road with the confidence of someone who'd navigated these conditions countless times. She should have felt more nervous about going to a stranger's home in the middle of nowhere, but something about Jake Thornton radiated competence and, strangely, safety. "How did you even find me?" she asked. "I was coming back from checking on my north pasture fence when I saw your car go off the road. Radioed my foreman to tell him I'd be delayed, then came after you. Lucky thing, too. You picked about the worst spot to get stuck." "Lucky," Sarah repeated softly, thinking about the improbability of it all. Of all the miles of empty highway, he'd been right there at the exact moment she'd crashed. Maybe luck was real after all. The ranch house emerged from the storm like something out of a dream. A large log structure with warm light glowing from multiple windows. Jake pulled the truck into an attached garage, and the sudden silence when he killed the engine was almost startling after the howl of the wind. "Welcome to Thornton Ranch," he said, climbing out. "Home sweet home for the foreseeable future." Sarah followed him through a door that led directly into a mudroom where Jake hung up his coat and hat before turning to help her with hers. Now that they were in the light, she could see him fully, and she was struck again by his sheer size. He wasn't just tall, he was powerfully built, with a kind of physique that came from hard physical labor rather than a gym. And despite his gruff demeanor in the truck, his hands were gentle as he helped her out of her inadequate coat. "You're still shivering," he observed. "Come on, let's get you properly warmed up." He led her into a spacious great room dominated by a massive stone fireplace where a fire already crackled. The room was masculine but comfortable, with leather furniture, Navajo rugs, and walls decorated with old photographs and ranch memorabilia. It was the home of someone who lived alone but took pride in his space. "Sit by the fire," Jake instructed, pointing to a chair positioned close to the hearth. "I'm going to make you some tea and soup. You need to warm up from the inside out." Sarah sank into the chair, grateful, and watched as he disappeared into what she assumed was the kitchen. She could hear him moving around, the sound of cabinet doors opening and closing, water running. She looked down at herself and winced. Her jeans were soaked from the snow, her sweater was damp, and her hair was plastered to her head. She probably looked like a drowned rat. Jake returned, carrying a steaming mug and a bowl on a tray. "Chamomile tea with honey and beef stew. It's from last night, but it'll warm you up. After you eat, you should take a hot shower and change into dry clothes. I'll find you something to wear." "Thank you," Sarah said, accepting the mug. The warmth of it in her hands was almost painful, but in a good way. She took a sip and felt the heat spread through her chest. "You're very kind. I know I'm an unexpected burden." Jake settled into the chair opposite her, his long legs stretched out toward the fire. "You're not a burden. Out here, we help people. It's not kindness. It's just what you do. Still, I'm grateful and I'm sorry for being snippy in the truck. You saved my life and I was defensive. You were scared and cold. People get prickly when they're scared." He paused, studying her. "So, Boston, huh? That's a long way from Clearwater. What made you take a job in the middle of nowhere?" Sarah ate a spoonful of stew, buying herself time. The truth felt too raw, too personal to share with a stranger. but something about the way Jake watched her, patient and without judgment, made her want to be honest. I needed to get away, she said finally. From my old life, from people who hurt me, from everything familiar. I wanted somewhere completely different, somewhere I could start over and figure out who I was without all the noise. Jake nodded slowly. Running away or running toward something? Both, maybe. Is that allowed? It's allowed. I did something similar about 7 years ago. Came back to the ranch after my father died, left behind a life in Denver that wasn't working. Sometimes you need distance to get perspective. Do you regret it? Sarah asked, leaving Denver. Not for a second. This place, this life, it's hard but it's real. You know where you stand. The land doesn't lie to you. The animals don't pretend to be something they're not. There's an honesty to it that I didn't find in the city. Sarah considered this as she finished her stew. There was something appealing about that idea, about a life stripped down to essentials, where things were what they were without pretense. I hope I find that in Clearwater. That honesty you're talking about. You will, if you give it a chance. Small towns are like that. They can be hard on outsiders at first, but once they accept you, they're loyal. And kids are kids everywhere. They'll love you or they won't based on who you are, not where you're from. I hope you're right. After she finished eating, Jake showed her to a guest room upstairs. It was cozy and well-maintained, with a queen bed covered in a patchwork quilt and windows that probably offered beautiful views when they were unobscured by blizzard conditions. He provided her with sweats and a flannel shirt that would be comically large on her smaller frame, along with thick socks. Bathrooms through that door, he said, pointing. Take your time, there's plenty of hot water. I'll be downstairs if you need anything. The hot shower was glorious, thawing her frozen limbs and washing away the terror of the afternoon. Sarah stood under the spray longer than she probably should have, letting the warmth seep into her bones. When she finally emerged and dressed in Jake's borrowed clothes, she caught sight of herself in the mirror and had to laugh. The sweatpants had to be rolled up several times, and the flannel shirt hung on her like a dress, but they were warm and dry, and they smelled like cedar and something masculine that she found oddly comforting. When she came downstairs, Jake was in the kitchen doing dishes. He'd changed into fresh jeans and a thermal shirt that emphasized his broad shoulders. He glanced up when she entered, and she caught the hint of a smile. They fit, he observed, dryly. Barely. I think I could fit 2 of me in these clothes. Better too big than too small. Coffee or more tea? Coffee, please. I'm finally starting to feel human again. They sat at the kitchen table, and as the storm raged outside they talked. Really talked. Jake told her about the ranch, about raising cattle and quarter horses, about the challenges of working land that had been in his family for 4 generations. He spoke about his father, who'd been a hard man but a fair one, and about learning to run the ranch on his own after losing both parents within a year of each other. Sarah found herself opening up in return, telling him about her life in Boston, her career as a teacher, and, eventually, about David and the betrayal that had shattered her plans. Jake listened without interrupting, and when she finished, he said simply, his loss. Any man stupid enough to cheat on someone like you deserves exactly what he got, which is nothing. Someone like me? Sarah asked, curious, smart, brave enough to start over somewhere completely new, good with kids, according to your credentials. Pretty though, I'm guessing you don't see that right now, he said it matter-of-factly like he was describing the weather. Sarah felt her cheeks heat. That's very kind, but you don't know me. I know you didn't panic when you were trapped. I know you apologized even though you had nothing to apologize for. I know you asked about my life instead of just talking about yourself. That tells me plenty. They talked late into the night, the conversation flowing easily despite having just met. Jake made them dinner, a simple meal of grilled steaks and roasted vegetables, and Sarah insisted on helping with the preparation. She watched him move around his kitchen with the same competence he'd shown driving through the blizzard, and found herself relaxing in his presence in a way she hadn't expected. When she finally went to bed, Sarah lay awake, listening to the storm and thinking about the strange turn her life had taken. This morning she'd been driving alone toward an uncertain future. Tonight she was in a stranger's home, but somehow it didn't feel strange at all. Jake Thornton, the giant cowboy who'd plucked her from certain death, was unlike anyone she'd ever met. There was a directness to him, a lack of pretense that she found refreshing after years of navigating Boston's social games and David's passive-aggressive manipulation. The next morning, Sarah woke to silence. The storm had passed in the night, leaving behind a world transformed by snow. From her bedroom window, she could see the ranch spread out below, covered in white that sparkled in the brilliant sunshine. It was breathtakingly beautiful. She found Jake in the kitchen already dressed and making breakfast. Morning, he greeted her. Sleep okay? Better than I have in months, actually. The storm stopped. Yeah, about 3 a.m. But the roads won't be passable for at least 2 more days. The county plow won't get out here until the main highways are clear, and that takes time. You're stuck with me a while longer. Sarah poured herself coffee and sat at the table. I should probably call the school, let them know I'm delayed. Phone lines are down. Happens sometimes after big storms. Cell tower is probably iced up too. You won't get service for a day or 2, so I'm completely cut off from the outside world. Yeah, but not from here. Jake set a plate of eggs and bacon in front of her. I've got work to do today, checking on the animals and making sure the storm didn't cause any damage. You're welcome to come with me if you want, or you can stay here where it's warm," Sarah considered. The smart choice was probably to stay inside, but the thought of exploring the ranch with Jake was appealing. "I'll come with you if I won't be in the way." "You won't be. Fair warning though, ranch work is hard, cold, and often involves mucking out stalls. I'm tougher than I look." Jake's smile was approving. "I'm starting to believe that." He outfitted her with proper winter gear, insulated coveralls and boots that belonged to his late mother. They fit better than his clothes had, and when Sarah looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked like someone who belonged here, in this landscape. They spent the day working side by side. Jake showed her how to break the ice on the water troughs, how to check the cattle for signs of frostbite, how to distribute hay to the horses. He was patient with her inexperience, explaining things clearly and never making her feel stupid for not knowing. Sarah found herself fascinated by the rhythm of ranch life, the physical demands of it, the connection to the land and animals. At one point, they stopped to rest in the barn, and Jake showed her the newest addition to the ranch, a foal born just a week earlier. The little horse, all legs and curiosity, nuzzled Sarah's hand, and she felt something in her chest loosen. "She's beautiful," Sarah breathed. "Her mother is my best mare. This filly is going to be something special." Jake's hand rested on the foal's neck, gentle despite his size. "There's something about working with animals that keep you honest. They don't care about your past or your mistakes. They care about how you treat them right now, in this moment." Sarah looked at him. "Is that what you needed? That kind of honesty?" "Yeah, I was engaged once, back in Denver. She wanted me to be something I wasn't. Fit into her idea of success. When I inherited the ranch and wanted to come back, she gave me an ultimatum. Her or this place," he gestured around the barn. "I chose the ranch. She called me a fool for throwing away our future for a pile of dirt and some cows. I'm sorry. Don't be. She was right to leave. I would have made her miserable, and she would have made me into someone I hated. Sometimes people aren't compatible no matter how much they might want to be. The trick is recognizing it before you waste too much of each other's time or before the wedding." "Ideally," Sarah said with a wry smile. "Or that." Jake returned her smile, and for a moment they just looked at each other, something unspoken passing between them. That evening, as they prepared dinner together, Sarah realized she was enjoying herself more than she had in years. There was something deeply satisfying about the physical exhaustion of the day's work, about the simple act of cooking and sharing a meal with someone who seemed to genuinely enjoy her company. Jake had a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard, making her laugh over stories of ranch mishaps and small-town characters. "You're going to fit in fine in Clearwater," Jake said as they cleaned up after dinner. "You've got that combination of toughness and kindness that people around here respect." "I hope so. I'm nervous about starting new place, new people, new everything. You faced down a blizzard and spent the day doing ranch work without complaining once. You'll be fine." He paused, then added, "And if you're not, if you need help or you're struggling, you can call me. I'm only about 15 miles from town. You barely know me. I know enough, and out here, that's what neighbors do. We look out for each other." Sarah felt something warm bloom in her chest. "Thank you, Jake, for everything. For saving me. For letting me stay here. For treating me like a person instead of an inconvenience. You were never an inconvenience. Sarah, you were a surprise, but a good one." The third day brought clear skies and the sound of heavy equipment. The county plow had finally made it to the ranch road. Jake radioed them to check on the condition of the highway, and the news was good. The main road to Clearwater was passable, though they should drive carefully.